Greetings curious minds and weary travelers, and welcome to the first special for Theory Summer. This one is its own respective multi-part theory, but to make sure it's most easily understood we're starting off this one by establishing the concept, so the later parts that focus on each individual foreteller can be more easily understood. Be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoy. Now to start off, Shift Pride Theory is the theory that each apprentice of the master does not start the story with their namesake sin, but instead shifts into their namesake sin at some point throughout the story as it progresses to mark for the audience when exactly did each foreteller get their respective darkness. To get to that point, however, we'll need to explain what each individual sin is, and then from there examine the cutscenes of the characters to match them. We won't be going in any particular order just to spice things up a little in presentation. We also won't be doing complex dives into any of the sins, as this is mostly just covering the concept. Each foreteller will get their own dedicated video on their Shift Pride, don't you worry about that. One is already planned as another part of Theory Summer, so be expecting it to drop sometime next month as part of the event. Starting with Avarice, this being the sin of greed, or as it's otherwise known as, covetousness. This sin is not to be mistaken for an obsession with money, as money obsession is not witnessed among the foretellers, but to more simply be put it as the embodiment of destructive desires towards a goal that one can never achieve. Covetousness being an excessive or unreasonable desire in something being the application to this sin, since it is driven by what one covets over any realistic goal setting. In practice, anything unobtainable that is obsessed over obtaining is greed. Next is Irae, this being the sin of wrath. This sin, while most associated to anger, also like greed covered prior, is a bit more nuanced in practice, since even those considered divine and sinless have expressed anger. What distinguishes it is the desire for vengeance and resentment, specifically the type of anger and hatred that produces those feelings that are also not based on reason or justice. Next on the list of sins is Gula, the sin of gluttony. Much like other sins, this is typically lost in translation due to the social associations between gluttony and food. As a result, the nuances tend to get missed by the wider population, as the sin is far more than excessive consumption of food. To boil it down to its core, the sin of gluttony can best be understood as intemperance. The inability to moderate oneself, or delay, or deny one's own immediate desires. In essence, it isn't lacking self-awareness to the inability to moderate oneself, only that they cannot do so. Do keep this in mind as it will be important for later. The next sin to cover is Invidia, the sin of envy. While jealousy can be seen as part of the sin, envy ends up being distinguished between jealousy by the Y factor. Jealousy is related to being guarded over what you feel is yours, while envy is specifically feeling wronged at the situations or fortunes others have in their own situation, regardless of their personal relationship with you. With 2 left to go, our next to cover is Acedia, the sin of sloth. Acedia is a lot more than just being lazy. It specifically is a form of spiritual torpor and apathy. Basically, functioning is a lot more akin to mental and spiritual stagnation, including obligations one has to their personal duties, rather than just absence of physical activities. This will also be really important later. Last, but certainly not least on the list is going to be Luxuria, the sin of lust. While everyone knows the basic interpretation of lust, as Kingdom Hearts is not a rated M game, that should also be noted has more nuance to it than the default understanding when used in the story. Lust specifically means an intense craving or indulgence for something cardinal, or to be more specific, something worldly or temporal. Something physical in the world that your body, or in the case of Kingdom Hearts, your heart, craves more than anything, typically in a negative or destructive way. Now that we've gone through that, the next question you're probably asking is why. The reason for it being that now rewatching the introduction scenes with these definitions in mind, we can start to piece together what the core sin of each foreteller was at the very beginning of the story. Once again going in no particular order, we start with Acedia.
You been here long? My bad.
No.
So, what did you want?
You didn't forget, did you? You're the one who called me here.
Lighten up! I was just kidding. I didn't forget. Give me a little credit here. I was just testing you.
Right.
Now then, allow me to tell you about your role. You're going to be Irae's right-hand man.
What? Irae's right-hand man? What do you mean?
Well, Irae's gonna be the new leader after I'm gone, you see. So, just stand by him. Don't disappoint.
Explain to me, Master. What do you mean Irae's going to be leader?
What? Is that disappointment I hear? Did you want to be leader?
No! I mean, if you had asked me to be the leader, that's a different story, but I wasn't trying.
You really want to be leader, huh?
Well...
I know you want it, but that just isn't enough. Any chump can say, here's a huge promotion, good job, and make you head honcho. But enthusiasm alone doesn't make a great leader. Irae needs someone like you to give him a push in the right direction.
I agree. Irae is definitely the most worthy among us. I'm sure he'll make a fine leader.
Then it's settled.
Wait, I agreed that he is worthy. But why do we need a new leader, Master? Does that mean you will no longer be teaching us?
Well, I might disappear one day. Well, I might disappear.
Disappear? Why? Where?
Speak up sooner if you're listening. It was embarrassing for me. Anyway, I don't know if I'm gonna disappear or not. It's anyone's guess right now.
But...
In any case, you need to support Irae. We both know he's quite serious. He's always just thinking and thinking and thinking behind that unicorn mask of his. So everyone will be counting on you to spur him into action.
Right.
You might not be entirely happy with your role, but just know that it's the most important one. Capiche? Shall I elaborate? Making Irae the leader is all good in theory, but sometime later you might think, he's terrible at this, in which case it'll be your job to step up. Who knows? Your leadership might be just what everyone needs, and that is your true role. May your heart be your guiding key. Best of luck, Aced.
As you can see with Aced's introduction, we get very heavy-handed implications of his own envy. He seems hurt that Irae was chosen as the leader instead of himself, in spite of also acknowledging Irae would make a better leader. Aced only expresses some form of positive emotions in his case only after being told his true role is ultimately to replace Irae. Another clear symptom and expression not of Acedia or sloth as his starting core sin, but instead one of pure envy. A goal he does strive towards until finally giving up on the notion of unions and abandons all of his assigned duties and obligations entirely, right before the Keyblade War. Since we covered envy with Aced, we should probably talk about what envy is then if Aced's core sin is envy and not hers, starting with her case file.
So to sum it up, I'll need you to observe the others. Easy breezy.
All right.
Like I said, Irae may have to take over for me. But don't be shy. Just be fair. And do not be afraid to speak up. Even though I say observe, you'll need to be the mediator. Make sure people get along.
I understand. But without you or Luxu, to form and maintain our own unions it's a little unnerving, to be honest.
Oh, come on! Lighten up a little. Maybe I'll never disappear. Wait, do you want me to go?
What? No, of course not.
I was just kidding.
Oh, I see.
Look, I get that change can be hard for everyone, but things need to keep moving forward. And you need to keep up. Otherwise, you'll just get left behind, all alone. Now that you know what the future holds, Invi, what does your heart say? May your heart be your guiding key. I say it all the time. You ultimately need to do what your heart feels is right.
Right.
As you can tell from her case file, there's very little in terms of expressing any sin. A few of them are like this, but when paired with the very next cutscene, she appears and her sin becomes a lot more obvious. Invi being the first to have an aggressive outburst, specifically in response to Aced correctly pointing out Irae's sudden claims of a traitor being foolish would be showing it based not on reason. While this is the weakest expression of a sin in the early phases of the story, it's also the only sin she's directly expressing for her first two scenes, since she's not hurt by another's accomplishments, nor obsessing over anything between these two scenes. Wrath as her core sin is much more on the nose in later scenes. Particularly when first discovering Aced's alliance's goal.
Hear me out, Invi. I want an alliance among our unions. Gula here has already agreed. Will you join us, and together we can—
And disobey the Master's teachings?
We don't have a choice! Darkness is approaching, and we need to combine our strength to stand against it.
The Master bestowed each of us with a different role, and he specifically told us to keep our union separate, to maintain the balance of power. He told us that any imbalance would lead to a desire for more power, which leads to darkness. I know you haven't forgotten. Perhaps it's you who has been tainted by darkness.
As she continues to show anger and destructive desires towards Aced and his alliance idea while also knowing it's against her reason, since she personally acknowledges the alliances between unions can form while still being alike.
Invi, have you learned something?
It seems Aced and Gula's unions are now allied.
So Aced is the traitor after all.
No, I don't believe he is.
Why's that?
To Aced, unification is a means of gathering strength to oppose the darkness. So I believe his heart still belongs to the light.
Interestingly, it leaves Invi as the last of the Foretellers to show their core sin to the audience due to how long it takes to really make it apparent, but that will get more focus in her Shift Pride video. She gets more screen time with Irae than expressing her core sin in the early parts of the story. As for Irae, we should check in on him next.
So, did you look through the book?
Yes, but I'm still analyzing it.
Wow, no quick skim for you, huh?
I just prefer to be thorough. Master, is what it says in the last passage true?
Oh yeah, that. Bummer, huh?
Yes.
By the way, if one day I suddenly disappear, I'm counting on you to keep the others calm, okay?
Huh? Disappear?
Vanish? Dim? Fade? I don't know how to explain it. It's just hypothetical talk.
Okay.
This world is full of light. It's a world comprised of many smaller worlds, all connected, stretching as far as the eye can see. One great light protects us all throughout this vast land. All worlds share one light, one fate.
I take it you're talking about Kingdom Hearts.
Yep, you're right on the money. People believe that the light that is Kingdom Hearts will be here forever. But if it were to disappear, the world would be enveloped in darkness.
I understand. That is why you granted us these Keyblades. With these we can spread the teachings of light. And we can protect Kingdom Hearts from darkness.
No, they're not for protecting Kingdom Hearts.
Huh?
The final passage reads, "On that fated land, a great war shall transpire. darkness will prevail, and the light expire.
Isn't it our duty as Keyblade wielders to prevent this war from taking place?
Not possible.
What?
You really think you can change the future?
Then, what do you want us to do?
We have to focus on what comes after. There's no use thinking of ways to change events that we know are gonna happen.
But what about all of those who are here now? And the ones who will be here when the darkness finally comes? Are we to abandon all of them?
Come on, are you telling me that you think the world can be saved by just 7 people?
We have to at least try. With enough Keyblade wielders, we could...
Well, if you want to give it a shot.
Yes.
Alrighty, good luck.
As you can see with Irae, his first ambitions are initially to read through the Book of Prophecies in order to find a way to best help as many fellow wielders as he can. The Master's responses to these desires are to basically tell him there's no point, as in to become derelict in Irae's new obligations as the new leader of the Foretellers, but good luck if he wants to try. The Master is directly nudging Irae to behave with stagnation to his obligations as the new leader of the Foretellers. Pairing this with what the Master mentions about Irae in Acid's case file, and you have repetition from the Master, the expectation Irae will be stagnant in his duties, thus obligating the need of the right hand to begin with, as well as the need of inevitable replacement. While Irae's behaviors in the case files are not as on the nose as Acid's to his core sin, they do repeat the theme of sloth to be associated with Irae, since the Master is brazenly expecting Irae to be mentally and spiritually stagnant in his decisions as a leader and equally nudging him towards that direction as well. This also leads us into an interesting trio situation, where Irae, Invi, and Acid have their core sin direct to one another that also follows what their namesakes. Even more interesting is the remaining 3 also follow this trio setting. Getting into that, we should probably start with Gula.
Master. Master?
Oh, I see.
If you're busy, I can always come back later.
Sure. Oh, no, stay! Now where... Ah, here it is.
What's this?
Go on, read it.
This is from the Book of Prophecies. But...
Yep. It's a page that's not in any of your books.
And what's written here is...
Your role. You must find the traitor hidden among you, and stop them before it's too late. And in order to help you find the traitor...
I get it. That's why you gave us all different roles, isn't it? If anyone deviates from the job they were given, we can easily conclude that they are the traitor. It's brilliant!
Way to steal my thunder, show off!
Huh?
It's not fair. My plan was supposed to blow your mind with its grandeur. Your jaw should have hit the floor at my sheer genius!
I'm... sorry? But was my logic flawed?
Oh, you're right. So, I guess now you've earned your time in the limelight. Even though there is a traitor, act normal and keep focused. Trust no one but yourself.
Gula is another foreteller that has his sin core hidden in plain sight for his case file scene, and much like Irae, it's the Master that ends up spelling it out for the audience. Gula's core sin is greed, as his objectives are to not just take glory for himself by stealing the spotlight in hopes for the Master's praises that never come, but also the framework of why he was tasked to catch a traitor that doesn't exist at that time. By the virtue of what is the sin of greed, the obsession to gaining something that is unobtainable being Gula's task and one he will end up choosing over his connections to others, and that ends up with it both already matching his personality demonstrated in his case file, but also the definition of greed as his core sin. And with Gula down, we have the last of the Foretellers still to be covered, Ava.
What's written in the last page of the book is gonna happen. The entire world will be lost to darkness.
But Master, isn't there anything we can do?
Well, that's what brings me to your role. You might just be the only hope of keeping light from expiring.
Hope? Master, what is it that you need me to do?
Don't get involved in any battles. Forget the notion of unions. Find Keyblade wielders with potential and create an entirely separate organization. Then, like the seeds of a dandelion, let them fly to another world. They will keep the light alive.
You really think that I'm the right person for this?
Ava, you're the only person for this.
I understand.
With the core sin of greed going to Gula and the only remaining sins being lust and gluttony left to be core sins to pick from, you can probably guess where things are going with Ava in defining her core sin. However, just like Irae, her best examples of her core sin are explored more in other scenes outside of her case file. Ava being the most overtly driven by her heart's desires, her core sin follows into being lust. She is continually driven by what her heart desires, to the point of being detrimental to the group as a whole, in cases such as on the topic of Nightmare Chirithy. This being not just being driven by her heart's desires, but also being so recklessly uncaring about the disastrous consequences it could bring embodies this as a core sin, rather than a virtue for Ava. Being so driven by her heart's cardinal desires leaves just one core sin left to cover, and one last apprentice of the Master to go with it. While that is all Foretellers covered, as mentioned at the start of the video, this is about all of the Master's apprentices, not just the Foretellers. This means we can't finish before covering Luxu and his core sin of gluttony.
The gazing eye?
It's not what it's called.
Oh, what then?
Actually, no name.
No name.
Well, gazing or not, that Keyblade does have an eye in it. My eye, to be exact.
Ew!
Oh, you think that's gross, do ya?
No.
Yeah, sure. Anyway, about your role. You need to pass down that Keyblade to your apprentice and then him to his, so that my eye can see the future.
So the Book of Prophecies.
Bingo! The fact that it exists is proof of your success. That means you've trained a worthy apprentice, passed down that handsome Keyblade, and fulfilled your role. Congratulations! What's the matter? Come on, you did a fantastic job. At least smile a little.
But I haven't done anything yet.
Good point. Guess you better get started then. Unfortunately, you'll have to go alone from here on out. No Book of Prophecies to keep you company either. I can't have you causing any temporal paradoxes. But hey, we both know you'll do just fine without it, right?
Do I really have to go alone? What about the others?
Minor details, so don't sweat it. For now, you, that Keyblade, and this box need to stay out of sight. Just watch with your own eyes, and my eye, of course, as things unfold between the others. Then, when the time is right, go off and do your thing.
What's in it?
It's a secret. And, well, you see, the thing is, You can never, ever open it.
Great, now I really want to know.
All right. I'll indulge you. But this secret stays between the two of us, and you have to promise never to open the box.
I promise. But why?
You'll see.
With Luxu's case, just like Invi's, we find that it doesn't emphasize any particular sin. This in turn requires scenes from Union Cross where we get more of what Luxu's core desires, and by consequence what his core sin initially is. Luxu, as you can see, is someone who is unable to say no, both to his own personal desires and to what others ask of him. This being demonstrated not only by his role of watching, being tied to his desire to keep an eye on the dandelions, but also his inability to hide any information he has from Ava, despite him demonstrating knowing what is on the lost page. Due to Luxu's trends and behavior being impractice and temperance, since he lacks self-control to his own desires, his core sin more than any other of the master's apprentices at the start of the story, is gluttony. With that, we conclude the presentation of Shifting Pride Theory. Tell me what you think of it in the comment section below, and may your heart be your guiding key.